Happy Saturday, Connect fam, and welcome to another fabulous episode of the Connect Network TV right here on the CW. I'm your host, Stitches, and my gals are back in town. My co-host, Wendy Morales, and the fabulous Sandy Glint. Hi, ladies. How are you?
Hey, doing amazing.
Doing fabulous, darling.
Well, after reflecting on the month of September, which is not only Sexual Health Awareness Month, but also Menopause Awareness Month, we're diving into some real conversations that may help us all navigate our relationships better. And to kick things off, let's talk about a recent social media experiment by Phoebe Gates. Yes, the daughter of Microsoft billionaire Bill Gates. She took to the streets to ask adults about their sexual education as teens. It was fascinating to hear about the different answers. Some people said they learned nothing, while others said their parents were really open. Take a look.
Our sex education comprised of, the classic demonstrations with bananas and plastic bags and, all right, that's it, that's enough. We don't need to talk about that anymore.
The only thing I'll learn is how to put a condom on a banana or even like a zucchini or eggplant. That's it. The rest of the things, nothing.
My teacher was she just read out of the book and that's it. And she also was my driving teacher, and my gym teacher. So I feel like that was she was just overwhelmed, I think, and was just reading off the book.
No queer sex education whatsoever.
I don't think there was anything of value, and I think we were just giggling our way through it because we had heard a million other things from different sources, right, at that point.
We're 14. No one wants to talk about that in front of anybody.
I think it felt like just embarrassing for everyone involved.
Mostly I have to Google it myself.
We had to learn on the internet.
I definitely wish I knew more about vaccines, like the HPV vaccine.
I feel like they lacked education about the female body generally.
Wow. Ladies.
Wow.
What'd you think?
Wow.
I think it's interesting that majority of the feedback was that most people really didn't learn much. And so it begs the question, well, where did they learn it from? I mean, I don't know about you ladies, but for me, I feel like mine was kind of a mix. I feel like we did have sexual education in school. I feel like it was pretty informative, but it's more textbook than it is real life.
Yeah, I can totally relate. We didn't learn very much, and it definitely was not, we didn't learn it in school. So definitely my parents were not sharing any of, talking about, I was going to say tips, but that wouldn't be good because you wouldn't want your
education.
Tips, but education, yes. What about you, Stitch?
I say this all the time because I have nieces and nephews, and our running theme is hey, if we don't share, then they're going to find out the wrong way. Mm-hmm. So we were having a conversation even with my makeup artist, and just having dads involved and engaged in the conversation, which I think is important. And of course, in a tasteful way with mom there, however dads want to be. But I think it's important for the dads to be engaged in those conversations and to tell their daughters and their sons what to look out for in terms of if someone is trying to hey, if you hear this line, or if you're hearing getting this body language, then they're probably trying to get that from you. So I think it's important if they hear it at home first in the right way, if you will, somehow, somewhere they're going to hear it. And it's 9 times out of 10 going to be the wrong way.
Yeah. I watched a parenting, I think it was a video or it was a TV show. And they were saying at the beginning stages, you teach the anatomy. So just the actual names of the body parts. And then depending on how young those kids are, you then kind of progress from there. And then you can talk about, more in depth and detail as much as I guess you want to go or feel comfortable with. But I think that, it is your responsibility as the adult. I have 2 little boys, but Wendy, I know that you have adult kids and 2 in college. So how did you, or will you, or do you teach your kids about sex education?
No, I was one of those parents that I always thought it's so important to be open with my kids. One thing that I found very important sharing with them is that God made us humans, and, he made us physical. And anytime that they have those feelings, they're natural. So I wanted them to know that that was okay. I think you mentioned you have little kids, Sandy. So for me, obviously I have one boy and two girls. So I handled and I spoke to each of them differently. But I think with age, you want to start them off young enough to where they have a bit of an understanding, because they're going to ask questions. As they get older, you're going to become more open. But I was very open with my son and very open with both of my daughters, and they know that they could come to me at any point and talk about anything. And I do remember, I believe it's in 5th grade when the school will begin to offer or to talk to them about sex education, which I think it's a great thing. Great question.
Well, according to the World Health Organization, comprehensive sexual education is linked to healthier sexual behaviors later in life. And it's not just about the mechanics of sex, it's also about understanding consent, relationships, and emotional intimacy, which is so important.
Absolutely, Sandy. And, speaking of intimacy in relationships, ladies, that brings up a question many of us have probably wondered about at some point. I would say, especially if you're married. So how often should we be having sex with our spouse? Is there like a magic number? What do you think?
Well, since I'm the other married one here,
I ain't married yet, so I default to you ladies. Go ahead.
And Wendy, I'm sure you're going to agree with me on this. I feel like there's seasons. Like there's seasons of when you're when you're in newborn stage and you can't even think about sex because you're just trying to survive, like keeping a baby alive. And then there's like, we call it our single stage, like when we were together, married, before kids. And then like, I feel like, no, it ebbs and flows. It ebbs and flows because of travel. It ebbs and flows because of work schedules. It ebbs and flows because of the kids' schedules. So I feel like as long as there's open communication, that is the biggest basis, at least in our marriage, of like what will connect us, and whether it's with intimacy or just feeling connected, like having that communication is the greatest thing. And honestly, I think it's the greatest thing, whether you're in a marriage or any kind of relationship, to be open to be able to discuss what your needs are.
I was going to say it's seasons, it's phases, different ages, what you have going on in that relationship or in that marriage. As you mentioned, kids will take a lot of your energy. So no energy left for the bedroom sometimes, and then there's vacations, and it's almost like if you're on a honeymoon. So it all just depends. And as long as you mentioned, if that connection is there, I think that's what's really important, and that understanding. So I would say, though, I think once a week is great. If that can happen, I think that's a great number. How about you, Sandy?
I think whatever, and honestly, like, again, ours has ebbed and flowed, and I just think whatever is best for you and your partner, like, that's what the answer is. I don't think there's like, it is once a week, 3 times, 5 times, 10 times. Like, your number is your number between you and your spouse, or you and your husband or wife. So like, whatever, there's no magic number, but I think that you have to be good with it and your partner has to be good with it.
Yes. And, and I would say, at least for me personally, minimum at least once a week. I didn't mean just once a week. So also, as you get older, woman, you're like, all right, come on, let's get it together.
I will say, I think that as I've gotten older, it evolves, yes. Like it gets better, it evolves. I mean, we're married for almost 10 years, but Wendy, how long have you guys been married?
Going on 23 years.
23, yeah. So they're the pros.
That's awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, ladies, catch me next year. Maybe catch me next year. I'll be chiming in on this conversation.
Connect fam, we are just getting warmed up. Are you in your 40s or 50s and your body is starting to feel totally different? It may be perimenopause. Coming up next is Dr. Betty Murray. If you've ever wondered how to manage the changes, or you're just looking for some solid tips to keep glowing through it all, this episode is for you. You won't want to miss it.
Is the stigma surrounding mental health holding you back from reaching out? Hi, I'm Marnie Goldman, CEO of Fabulously Flawed. With my lived traumatic experiences and training, I know what it takes to turn challenges into triumphs. We offer personalized empowerment coaching and inspirational speaking to help you break free from the mental health stigmas. Join us at Fabulously Flawed and let's walk the path to resilience together. Visit my website for more information and follow us on social media for your daily dose of motivation.
I'm Kate McGuire, the founder of Converted Closet on Instagram. And if you like original clothes and would like to get the most out of your wardrobe, follow me for inspiration on Instagram and I'll show you how. You'll never look back. You're watching the Connect Network TV.
Are you ready to upgrade your brand, level up your career, and accelerate your business with custom features on network television? Learn more at theconnectonline.com.
Hi, I'm Jess DeFeo, and I am a social media coach for women entrepreneurs who know they are on a mission to change the world with their business, but are struggling with how to market themselves authentically to their ideal client on social media. I can help you go from overwhelmed and confused on what to post to creating effective and impactful content that converts your followers into customers. Head to my website to grab your free course, Instagram 101 for Business, and learn the strategies I use to grow my business in just 6 months.
Guys, I'm DDJ. I'm a pop singer and a fashion designer. You can follow my page on Instagram, DDJ Official, DIDIJ Official. Also, I'm there on TikTok doing my Get Ready With Me videos all the time. So if you want to follow that page too, you are watching the Connect Network TV.
Welcome back to the Connect Network TV. We've got the one and only Dr. Betty Murray joining us today to share her expertise on navigating the ups and downs of menopause. She is the founder of Living Well Dallas, a functional medicine center, and Minerva, a telemedicine company supporting women across the country. She's here to help us master menopause and optimize our health. Welcome to the show, Dr. Betty.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, Doc. Welcome, welcome. So, Doc, let's kick things off with some real talk if we can. We are talking sexual health this morning. So glad you're here to dive into for some real talk. So tell us, how does a woman's libido change within her 20s compared to her 30s, 40s, and then 50s?
Well, your libido is influenced by lots of different things. So, I know the conversation earlier, we were talking about having small children and the stress of just, trying to keep a child alive. So, your 20s, 30s, even 40s, often we're child rearing, we're taking care of people. And so our libido is going to wax and wane based on what's happening from a stress standpoint. But when you start to get in your 40s and you start entering what we would call the perimenopausal time period, the period before menopause, hormone changes, particularly in hormones like testosterone and estrogen, start to shift. And so women will often start to find that their libido has kind of gotten up and left. And so in a lot of cases, it's very shocking. And the other thing that happens too is at this time, our body's changing a lot as well. And so you've got the feeling that your body may be different than what it was before. And then so you intermingle that emotional state and sort of who am I in this time period? So we see it really wax and wane over time.
So true, Dr. Betty. I am going through menopause currently. And let me tell you, it has been a roller coaster. And I want to say I started going through perimenopause probably around the age of 45. And I started to notice, a few changes here and there, but nothing crazy. But when I guess moved over into full menopause, whoa, that was such a change. And one day I'm feeling anxious. The next day I am feeling sad. The next day I'm feeling obese. I mean, your entire body just changes. It's just, up and down. And it's been really hard. And I'm currently trying to find that balance. So, what are some common trends that you are currently seeing in women that you could share with us?
So, I think some of the things that women need to recognize is the average woman. So, in the United States, the average woman goes through menopause at 51. The average length of time we are symptomatic is 8 years. And so, what that also means is some women may enter some of the perimenopausal time period in their late 30s. That happens to be the case for me. I started showing symptoms in my late 30s. And some women, may see it much later. And so, a lot of times, women, the trend is that they think the only thing that has to do with menopause is hot flashes and night sweats. And that's really the most minor of symptoms and the most minor of what's really going on. They're just very, very noticeable. And so I think for women, the biggest trend is they really don't know that a lot of the symptoms they are experiencing in this time period of life is related to the transition into menopause.
Okay, so I want to kind of dive into two questions now. The first one is, what are the signs that you are in perimenopause? And then how do you know that you're out of it? Like, how do you know that you are fully in menopause?
Okay. So perimenopause can start with lots of different symptoms. So things like mood swings. 1 in 3 women will have anxiety, 1 in 5 will have depression. Irritability, insomnia is one of the earliest and most, I would say, difficult to figure out because it sort of shows up and then continues on. Hot flashes, night sweats, heart palpitations, even things like nerves and tingling sensations. So you can get a lot of different symptoms. Vaginal dryness, low libido, those are some of the other ones that start to affect our relationships. Menopause is really one day in your life, and it's a full 365 days from the last time that you had a period. So that kind of denotes the last time that you had your period, and then from that moment forward, you're in you're in menopause and then postmenopausal.
Doc, thank you for answering those questions. We're going to keep going if that's all right. This is really interesting for me and good information. How can women best prepare for this transition?
I think one of the biggest challenges is that we don't talk about it. We don't talk about sex, with our family members and our children. And even as women, we don't really talk about what we're going through. And so for a lot of women, we feel isolated. We're the only ones that are going through these experiences. So I think first and foremost is understanding that you're in a situation that all women go through. 100% of us go through it. Nobody gets a pass. The other challenge is today in the United States in particular, there's less than 3% of any physicians, including your OB gynecologists, have any training in perimenopause and menopause. They have zero training. So they do not know how to handle this transitional period and what is really happening in a woman's body. So I think that's first and foremost is you want to be educated yourself. And you want to work with people that actually understand what your body's going through, because it's not just about symptoms. It's also about the disease risk that comes along with it after you go through menopause and as you're going through menopause.
And speaking of sex, is there we were speaking about it earlier. Both Wendy and Sandy had their thoughts on it as well. How many times a week is it realistic, would you say, for a couple or husband and wife to really have sex per month or per week? Is there a set number, Doc? Is there a number?
There isn't an exact number. The statistics are kind of all over the place. We have a lot of actually sexless marriages, right? So if you look at that, there's statistically, I would say the most important part is that the partners are getting their intimacy needs met, right? That those things are matched. We do often see sexual contact, intimacy changing during this time period because women do experience painful sex. Sex can become painful because we lose lubrication. And sometimes our partners may not understand that and may not understand that's why we might be withdrawing or pulling back.
Is this specifically for menopause? what you're speaking about? Okay.
Yes. Yes. Although you may start seeing those symptoms before you actually have an entire year without a period.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to say sometimes you also can have them, as you mentioned, before you don't have a cycle, you're in full menopause. Is it true, doctor, that 50% of women don't experience actual symptoms and other 50% do experience the symptoms of perimenopause or menopause?
The stats are actually much higher than that. So about 87% of women experience some symptoms, right? Again, hot flashes and night sweats are just one of many. And for most women, they're going to experience them for an average of 8 years.
Wow. That's incredible that it lasts that long. I didn't know that before today.
Yeah. Well, it's, when you think about it, it's because it's not a distinct one set of symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
I know that we look at about 69 different symptoms. And so each woman's experience may be very different. And so that makes it difficult for you to know yourself, oh, this is this transition. This is what's happening for me.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I want to dive in and ask you, with your two incredible companies, Living Well Dallas and Minerva, what unique services do you offer that can help women navigate menopause more comfortably and confidently?
Well, I think a lot of women are very much concerned about, how do I go through this transition at most naturally, right? Like, what can I do to do the most natural thing for my body and prepare not only to experience it, but then to thrive afterwards? And so one of the things that we look at is, we believe it's very important to test where your hormones are at. And ideally, before you go completely through menopause. We know from the literature and the science that disease risk and those things do increase as we get older. And especially once you've gone through menopause. So we want to test the hormones, know where your levels are at, and then adequately replace the hormones. So we use bioidentical hormones, and we replace the hormones that you used to make.
So, Doc, what would be an ideal age to actually test your hormones? What you would say?
In a perfect world, I would love to test somebody in their mid-20s and know, like, at that prime, where were your hormones? And then as you start to experience the symptoms, like insomnia was my first symptom. So as I experienced insomnia, testing to see where they have moved to, because they vary throughout the month, but they vary in a somewhat prescriptive pattern, right? And so then you test, and then you start to replace as those hormones start to alter and decline.
Nice. And there's no net, because I feel like somebody's going to ask this who's like kind of blind to this topic, because I do feel like this is one of those topics that, like you said, is not talked about in really any age form. But is there a downside or a negative to testing early, if that makes sense?
No, not at all. And the most important part is when you're working with a practitioner, a physician that understands women's cycles and how to test them. Because of course, day 1 of our cycle is very, very different than day 20, right? But you can test based on how your cycle, the days of your cycle, and we can test for those and get them at the best time when we see those peaking. And there's no drawback to identifying how your hormones move throughout the month, ever.
That's good. Dr. Murray, we learned so much from you, and I'm sure our Connect fam did as well. Where can we connect with you, and how can we learn about really your work?
Sure. You can look me up at bettymurray.com, or you can also look up my company called hormoneshelp.com.
Awesome. And it helps that you have a soothing voice as well. So you're somebody probably want to talk to. Thank you. Thank you, Doc. Awesome job. Connect fam, we will be back. Sit back, relax, get your cup of tea, water, whatever you drink in the morning. It's not our business. We just want you to come back. Don't move.
Hi, my name is Brooklyn Sudano, and you can catch me on Cruel Summer on Freeform, Hulu, and Amazon worldwide. You are watching the Connect Network TV.
Hi, everybody. I'm Fern Malice. I was the creator of New York Fashion Week, and now I have a consulting business. And I'm also the author of Fashion Icons by Fern Malice. And I have books 1 and 2, which are fabulous, full of great interviews. You can buy the book set at Nordstrom or buy the books independently at Amazon or other great booksellers. You can follow me on Instagram and find out more about my events and everything I'm doing. It's at Fern Malice. And I'm happy to be here on the Connect Network.
I'm Jessica Cherry, founder of the award-winning blog Life of a Cherry Wife. If you're looking to follow for mom and lifestyle content, fashion, Latina life, and good vibes, this is the place for you. Head over to www.lifeofacherrywife.com for the latest in these areas. Follow me on social at Life of a Cherry Wife.
Hi, I'm Ananda Lewis. I help women thrive. You can find me on Instagram at I'm Ananda Lewis or on my new app, Elixir, available in all app stores right now. And you're watching the Connect Network TV.
Welcome back, Connect family. What an incredible episode we've had today. A huge thank you to Dr. Betty Murray for sharing her wisdom and insights on navigating menopause. That's all we have for now, Connect fam. And don't forget to follow Dr. Betty on Instagram at BettyMurray_PhD for even more amazing insights and tips on navigating menopause and enhancing your health.
That's right, Sandy. And tap into our IG and connect with us to share more at the Connect Network TV. And remember, you can catch all our past episodes by binge watching them Netflix style on our website at theconnectonline.com. In the meantime, keep up with me at Gone with the Windy on Instagram and Sandy and Stitches. Where can they find you, darlings?
Yeah, so just at Sandy Gland, that's Sandy with an I, or you can find me over at Slay Your Day Official on Instagram.
I love it. And of course, you can follow me on socials, STICHIZ Stitches, everything Stitches. And if you're tuned into the radio, you can catch me on iHeartRadio stations across the U.S. And if you happen to be in Canada, tap into Sportsnet. You might hear a familiar voice. As always, enjoy. God bless. Tell someone you love them or they can hear it and receive it. Love you, boy. Free lady. Ooh. Ooh.